Welcome to the very first episode of What Didn't Happen, where myself, Kyle Hope, and Drew Roberts will discuss an alternate path to a chunk of history and the changing fate of the Russian Revolution.
But today, we will be discussing the real history of what happened with the rise of Joseph Stalin and his duel with Leon Trotsky. The date was 1914. There was turmoil brewing among the European powers. World War I has just begun, with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, with Austria-Hungary, with Serbia to blame. This lit a spark around the continent, with Russia being the first to intervene.
The Russian Revolution started in 1917 with peasant uprisings. It was right on the cusp of World War I, full swing, both sides. It was very hard to determine who was going to win. But in Russia, they didn't care who won, because they were having a real revolution, and the peasants were beginning to rise.
World War I was just about to end, and Russia had the Bolshevik Party in power. This created a great divide within the country.
Yes, this created a divide within the supporters of the Bolsheviks, the Red Army, and the previous government with the Tsar, the White Army. The Civil War was in full swing, and on October 22nd of 1922, the Bolsheviks would end up taking power. Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin were great political rivals, with them they used to be allies, but over time they grew to have a strong hatred toward each other. The Civil War would end on October 22nd of 1922, and by this time there were two main people in the Bolshevik Party that most people were looking to, because Vladimir Lenin, he just had a heart attack and looked like he was just about to pass away.
So these two people were Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin, right?
Yes. They were political rivals of the Bolshevik Party, and they were in the same party, but that doesn't mean they were particularly friendly towards each other. They took a great hatred towards each other.
So even though they were in the same party, they butt heads a lot.
Yes. And this would create several divides in the Bolshevik Party, with eventually Joseph Stalin getting victorious, as he would then have Leon Trotsky exiled to Mexico, which he would have to live out the rest of his days, till eventually he'll get assassinated by ice pick, but we'll talk about that later.
Alright. Okay, I'm going to get into the alternate scenario. This is where Stalin doesn't rise to power. Instead of Leon Trotsky does.
Yeah, it's a very interesting scenario if Leon Trotsky rose to power, because it doesn't seem that important, because it's just one person. But in reality, Joseph Stalin, he had a great impact within the Russian people, because after World War I ended, the Russian Revolution ended, but eventually what would happen is Vladimir Lenin, he would end up dying. But on his deathbed, he would explain that he wanted Leon Trotsky to take the reins and become the leader of the Bolshevik Party after he passes.
So in this alternate scenario, Stalin wouldn't have this high-ranking power.
Yes, he would have died a while ago. In this alternate scenario, Joseph Stalin, he probably would have died. Honestly, he could have died like 10 million times before this, but he's very lucky. But let's just say he just died. He just died before this. He never rose to power because he's not alive. But Leon Trotsky instead takes his place. And things get very interesting.
Because they have two completely different political views, it makes it so a lot of different events in history might not have happened or had a completely different outlook.
Yeah, they're both communists, but Leon Trotsky was a lot more lenient in his communist views, and he probably would have industrialized a lot sooner, but not at the capacity of what Joseph Stalin would end up doing. He was, by this point, before World War II even started, he'll start developing mental illnesses. And this would cause a great amount of paranoia that he had with several things. And this would cause him to purge the generals, all the top leading military generals, because he thought they were spies, which is crazy man talk, but that's what he thought. And this would cause Russia to be extremely weakened during whenever World War II would start. But in this alternate scenario, Leon Trotsky, that wouldn't happen.
Because he's not as mentally deranged as
Stalin.
Stalin was.
Yeah. In this alternate scenario, the generals would never be like killed off like cattle. They would prepare their armies in their military in case a foreign country like Germany, which in the current political climate was looking to be a very formidable foe.
So this change in power could really change how World War II.
Yes, this would likely what would have happened because the Red Scare, or not the Red Scare, the Great Purging of the generals, Stalin tried to make up for that by invading Finland, which is a neighboring country. It borders Russia, and they thought if they could bully a smaller country,
They could capture it?
yes, they could capture it and bring hope within the people. Because at this point, World War II has just started. Germany invades Poland. But this time, Russia does not intervene. Because just with Leon Trotsky, even in his early days, when he was still alive, and he was in Mexico in the real timeline, he would express how much he hated Hitler. And he likely would not have signed a treaty with Hitler to invade Poland. But this didn't happen because Germany would eventually send spies to Russia to prepare for an invasion. And actually, Joseph Stalin never took this seriously until the last moments when he actually did invade.
So this could make World War II end a lot earlier than our current timeline.
Yes, because Leon Trotsky was in power. There would be no need to restore hope within the Russian people. They already had hope because now there's a big threat in Europe.
So since Russia isn't really allies with Germany, how could this change? How do we think this could change the effects of what happened with Germany by the end of World War II?
Well, the effects of World War II with Russia would be a lot more prepared, and its allies, the Allied powers, because Russia would likely join the Allied powers in World War II. They would likely crush Germany at this point. Fear.
So the only reason the U.S. got involved is because it got so harsh. And
Yes.
the UK needed our help. So would we really get involved at this point?
Well, actually, that's an interesting question because I think we still would get involved, but we wouldn't get involved within the European continent because we were trading with Britain before we even joined World War II. It was Japan that brought us in.
So
And they are allies, and this would change how Japan saw Germany, but it wouldn't change how Japan saw us. They would still likely do Pearl Harbor, and the U.S. would likely still have the Pacific War with Japan.
So with this being said, the U.S. wouldn't really have a say of what happened to Germany. So,
Yeah. So, the side effects of this is that Russia will have full control of Germany, and there would be no wall separating Germany after World War II ended. It would be full dominance by Russia. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I feel like in this alternate scenario, World War II wouldn't be nearly severe. The Holocaust wouldn't be nearly severe because Germany would have to focus a lot more on the war, which would prevent a lot of tragedies. And the the timeline effects of this would be that Germany would likely cease to exist. And after World War II, there's not a whole lot that would change other than the dissolution of Germany. It would be an interesting scenario. But I think that's all for today, folks. You want to
Well,
hit us off, Drew?
of course. Well, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell so that you don't miss any future releases from Red Devil Productions. And that's all for today, folks.
Bye.